Welcome back. You're watching Media Monitor. Now, you'll remember last week, signal distributor Sentech had banned 15 community radio stations, but their suspension was lifted following an agreement by parties involved in the operations of the community radio sector. Well, we're now joined by, in studio, Mduduzi Manana, who's the NCRF president, and advocate Musa, Sishange, who's the acting chairperson from the Media Development and Diversity Agency, the MDDA. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter.
All right, so I'm not even know where to start, but let me start with you, Mr. Manana. More than 108 community radio stations, that's probably half of all of the community radio stations, are struggling financially. They're not paying their Sentech fees. And so Sentech had to do something. They've been pushed back in terms of the suspensions. But clearly we can't have a situation where the community radio stations are not paying their bills. What is the state of affairs?
Thank you, Peter. Maybe we have to take it back a little bit so that we can understand where we are now. You see, when the community radio was started back in 93 and 94, when it was full force, we continue as community radios who are self-providing in terms of the signal. And then around in 1997, there was a new animal called Y2K that everybody was scared of, that not even computers will just face that thing. So we were all pushed to say, let's go to Sentech, because Sentech is the only service provider that will deal with this particular matter. So we went there, and there were some incentives for going there. One was that we were going to get a subsidy from the government. Two, the equipment that we're going to get will be sustainable and is going to face all of that. So we all went there. All of a sudden, when the number of community radios rose, it then became an issue that the government could not subsidize everyone. And they stopped the subsidy without consulting or even conducting a study to check who will be able to sustain it and who won't be able to sustain it. And then they came in and they charge exuberant prices as Sentech, where in rural areas where there are no towers and stuff like that, they went to look for towers with Vodacom, MTN and others. And when they went to install those equipment, they transfer, actually the private sector would charge the government. They will transfer the whole amount to the client, which is the community radio. And that will amount to a 30,000 bill per month, which in a rural area, you are hardly, you hardly make that money.
So earlier on, Councillor Mukhele from ICASA said that the big issue really is mismanagement and not following through with the plans that you presented when you got the license. How much of it is just poor management? The people who are running these stations just can't.
All community radios are established by an Act of Parliament, which ICASA is the regulator. If they've identified the problem, what have they done? Because if they've identified that there was a problem and they need to intervene, they should have called us. We're a structure. It is so bad that we never had a meeting with ICASA where we discussed all of these things. We only hear them making a statement in public. So it's so very wrong. It looks like there's us and them. We are under one sector. We should be talking. When there are challenges, we could come together in one table and resolve those matters.
MDDA, Advocate Sishange, you're there to make sure they succeed. You're there to even fund them. What's happening? It's clear, it appears as if you're unable to do your job. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a sinking ship here.
Again, as you said, maybe we need to just go a step back. The MDDA looks after this sector in a meaningful way. However, our funding, each time we fund a community radio station, is over a period of a year where we do pay their Sentech fees, and thereafter they need to be sustainable. So I think there's a structural issue that we need to look at, and that's why we need to go back. So in this relationship that we have with community media and we have with the Department of Communications, the MDDA has met all its obligations from a monetary point of view and a support point of view. However, given the current challenges, we have said we'll meet with the minister, and we have, and we've met with NCRF in a joint meeting where we are trying to resolve this and to see if there are any funds elsewhere just to deal with this emergency issue. However, there's a long-term issue that we need to deal with, the structural problem. And one of our solutions is that we think from a policy point of view, up to, or even more, 30% of government ad spend should actually be on community newspapers, community radio stations, community TVs. We think that if we, at a policy level, from a cabinet level, if that is decided,
so what you're asking is, you're asking taxpayers to fund community radio stations that are not succeeding, that are partly being poorly managed. Why should the taxpayer subsidize community radio?
I don't think that is what we are saying. What we are saying is that government spends an X amount of money, exorbitant amounts of money on all these newspapers, advertising jobs, advertising various departments, advertising their own programs. Where are those programs implemented? At community level. If they do not then advertise on community media, they are not speaking directly to the people that are on the ground. So if there's a closer relationship in that regard, you will find that community media will be sustainable. That is not sidestepping the issues where there are challenges or those that are mismanaged. I think community media is largely very successful. It's the most transformed. It's got the most women ownership. It's got the most youth ownership. They're really great success stories. So we need to, in a collective way, try and support them.
All right, gentlemen, this is a conversation I think we're going to have again and continuously. But thank you very much indeed for coming in so early in the morning and sharing with us your thoughts on such an important sector. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, okay, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back,